I walked in with takeout in one hand and a smile on my face, thinking I was about to surprise my girlfriend. Instead, I surprised myself. There she was, half naked on the couch, with a sanitation worker whose boots were still covered in what I can only describe as filth. She didn't even flinch. Just looked at me, smirked, and said, "Guess the trash needs taking out, huh?" That's when everything in me snapped. It was a Tuesday. One of those dull, gray days when all you want is to go home and unwind. I'd gotten off work early and picked up her favorite noodles from that overpriced Thai place. I thought I'd be the good boyfriend, come home, surprise her, eat together, maybe watch something dumb on Netflix. Normal couple stuff. But when I opened the door, everything changed. The place smelled weird, like sweat, and something bitter, like chemicals. I stepped inside and noticed one of her heels in the hallway. Just one. That struck me as off. Then I heard the sound. Wet, rhythmic. Not the kind of sound you hear when someone's home alone. I followed the noise toward the living room. That's when I saw it. She was there, my girlfriend of 3 years, stretched across the couch like she owned the world. She wore nothing but a tank top rolled halfway up, and the man between her legs wore a municipal worker's vest, neon orange with grime and streaks of black across it. His boots, thick with filth, were on my rug. My rug. He turned around, startled. She didn't. She just looked at me with this slow, wicked smile and said, "Didn't expect you back so soon, babe." No apology. No guilt. She laughed and turned back to him, muttering something like, "Don't stop just 'cause he's here." My hands went numb. The bag of noodles hit the floor, and sauce spilled everywhere, just like my trust. I stood there frozen, trying to process what I was seeing, but all I could focus on was the sound of her laughing. She looked right at me and said, "You're seriously standing there like a kicked puppy?" Grow a spine. That hurt more than what she was doing. I left. I walked out of the apartment, got in my car, and drove without thinking. No music, no phone. Just silence and the image of her looking me dead in the eyes while some guy from the sanitation crew, still in his dirty uniform, violated everything I thought we had. That night, I slept in my car. She texted me twice, "You forgot your charger," and later, "Next time, knock." No apology. Just mockery. The next morning, I went back to grab some clothes. She was already gone, probably at work like nothing happened. There was a note on the counter, "We should talk later. Don't make this more dramatic than it needs to be." That's when I knew she wasn't sorry. She wasn't ashamed. In fact, I don't think she ever loved me at all. And worse, I started to wonder if she ever respected me in the first place. I sat on the bed and stared at the wall for a long time. I wasn't just heartbroken. I was humiliated, destroyed. But something else started to grow inside me. Resolve. She thought I was weak, that I'd cry and crawl back. She didn't know what I was about to become. The first time she ever told me she loved me, we were on the subway. She looked nervous, almost shy. Said she'd never felt like this before. I believed her. I believed everything. That's what makes what happened after I caught her even worse. She didn't try to explain. She didn't even pretend to feel bad. That night, after I grabbed some clothes and left, she waited 2 days. Then she called. "I think we should clear the air," she said. Her voice was calm, like we were two coworkers handling an awkward misunderstanding, not a woman who had betrayed me with a sanitation worker on our couch. We met at a coffee shop near her office. She came in looking polished, like nothing was wrong. Sat down, crossed her legs, and ordered a matcha latte. I hadn't slept in days. She looked at me and smirked. "You look terrible." I asked her one thing. "Why?" She shrugged. "You were too easy, too trusting. I mean, honestly, you never once checked my phone. Never questioned the overtime. I used to laugh about it with my friends, how I could tell you anything and you'd believe it. I didn't say a word. I mean, come on," she continued. "You really thought I was working late every Friday? You think people in HR work 20-hour weeks for fun?" I asked about the guy. "The sanitation worker." She laughed. "He's not the first. Probably won't be the last. But he was convenient. You're always gone. Always trying to build a future, or whatever. You never saw me." I wanted to scream, but my body wouldn't let me. Then she leaned in and said something I'll never forget. "You thought I was a good person, didn't you? That's cute." She said it like I was a child who still believed in fairy tales. I didn't recognize the woman sitting in front of me. This wasn't the person I'd fallen for. This wasn't even a person. This was someone who took pleasure in knowing she could crush someone and walk away untouched. "I was going to break up with you," she said casually, "but then I figured, maybe you'd take the hint." "Guess not." I asked her if she ever felt guilty. She laughed again. For what? You let me do it. You made it easy. That's when something in me finally cracked. Not from pain this time, from clarity. She saw me as weak. A doormat. A fool. But what she didn't know, what she couldn't possibly know, was that when you push someone like me to the edge, there's no going back. I left that coffee shop and didn't look back. Didn't reply to her next texts. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even breathe right for the rest of that day. But I started thinking. And the more I thought, the more one thing became clear. She would regret this. Not because I wanted revenge. Because she needed to know what it felt like to be humiliated. And this time, she wasn't going to see it coming. For a while, I did nothing. That was the hardest part. I didn't text her. Didn't stalk her socials. Didn't message any of her friends. I just disappeared. I wanted her to think I had broken completely, that she had one. And for a while, maybe she thought that. But every single day, I was watching, plotting. I started simple. I wrote down everything I knew about her, what made her tick, what she feared, what she valued. She had always prided herself on her image, her job, her reputation. She once told me her biggest fear was people not taking her seriously. Said she worked too hard to be seen as some girl who sleeps around. Interesting. She worked at a corporate firm, mid-level HR manager, always boasting about how she was rising fast. I knew her calendar by heart, knew her manager's name, her team's dynamic, even the system she used to manage employee complaints. I also knew something she didn't think I'd remember, the name of the guy from her office she had flirted with last year, the one she swore was just a work buddy. He had a wife. I found her on LinkedIn, then Facebook. She posted pictures of their 2 kids every week. I kept watching and documenting, not just her current affair with the sanitation guy. I followed her patterns, her calls, her late nights that suddenly returned. She had a new one, someone in sales this time. She thought I was out of her life, but I was already 3 steps ahead. But revenge for revenge's sake? No. I wanted precision. So I went back to her past. Dug through old chats she forgot I still had archived on my laptop. Found conversations where she made fun of people at work, joked about sleeping her way into promotions, even called her supervisor a desperate creep who thinks I'm into him. Those messages were gold. Then came the idea. I wouldn't just expose her. I'd make her own world collapse on her. Everything she built, her career, her clean image, her future, I was going to tilt just enough to let gravity do the rest. But I needed patience. So I applied for a job. At her company. It was a long shot, sure. But they had a satellite office in a neighboring district, and I had just enough credentials to slide in for an entry-level contractor position. 2 interviews, 1 background check, and a boring orientation session later, I was in. 3 floors beneath her. She didn't know. But I was close now. Closer than she could imagine. And the first domino was about to fall. I waited 3 weeks before making the first move. Long enough to learn the lay of the land. Long enough to observe her every pattern, her coffee breaks, her fake smiles, the way she giggled with men she pretended not to notice. She still had no idea I was in the building. And I planned to keep it that way. For now. But what she didn't know is that in that time, I had built relationships with a few key people. The guy in IT? Loved to gossip. The receptionist on her floor? Talked too much when nervous. I didn't ask for information, I just listened. A little praise here, a compliment there, and suddenly people were telling me everything I needed to know. Especially about her. She had a reputation, just not the kind she thought. People noticed the way her meetings ran long when certain men were in the room. How she flirted her way around accountability. A couple even mentioned that she must have something on her boss because she kept getting passes when others would have been fired. That's when I leaked the emails. The ones from our old laptop, the one she wrote about stringing along her supervisor, calling him a puppet, bragging that she could make him approve anything if she wore the right dress. I didn't send them from my account, of course. I made a burner address, set it to auto-delete, sent them directly to HR headquarters. Not the local office. The main branch in another state. And then I waited. 5 days later, the storm began. She came into work late. Hair messy. Eyes red. I heard whispers, someone had confronted her. Her manager, maybe. Or someone higher up. No one knew for sure. That afternoon, she posted a motivational quote on LinkedIn. Growth feels like pain sometimes. Keep moving. I almost laughed. But the real impact came a week later. Word got around that she was under internal review. Someone had reported inappropriate communications and ethical misconduct. She tried to play it off, claiming it was office politics. But I knew. She was spiraling. And the best part? She had no idea who was behind it. That weekend, she posted a picture on her story, dressed up, glass in hand, with some guy whose face was mostly cropped out. I knew him. One of the sales managers. Married. 2 kids. I screenshotted it. Then I sent it to his wife. No comment. No name. Just the picture. And watched as her little perfect life started to rot from the inside. I heard her crying on the 3rd-floor bathroom the next week. She still showed up, still wore her sharp suits and fake confidence, but her smile didn't reach her eyes anymore. It wasn't revenge yet. It was just the first hit. And I wasn't done. I underestimated her. I thought she'd panic, start slipping, maybe even quit under the pressure. But she didn't fold. She fought back. And she knew exactly where to strike. It started small. My phone rang late one night, unknown number. I picked up, half asleep. "Hey, stranger," she said, voice soft, almost warm. "Heard you've been asking about me." I said nothing. She laughed. "You didn't really think I wouldn't find out, did you?" That's when I knew she had connected the dots. Maybe someone in the office talked too much. Maybe she recognized something in a hallway glance or an email format. I didn't know how, but she knew. 2 days later, I got called into HR. Not the fake HR she ran, but corporate. A woman with clipped speech asked me to sit. Said there were concerns about my behavior. Anonymous complaints. Disruptive curiosity. Inappropriate conversations. I played dumb. Said I kept to myself. She smiled thinly. "Let's hope that's true." I left the room sweating. And that was just the beginning. Next, I noticed my locker at work was open. Nothing missing, but moved. Like someone wanted me to know they had been inside. My laptop glitched. Random logouts, files moved. Then came the big hit. She reported me. To the leasing company. See, the apartment we had lived in? My name was still on the lease. I had never bothered to take it off. I just wanted out. She filed a complaint saying I had abandoned responsibilities, left unpaid utilities, even damage to the carpet. A complete fabrication. But the building didn't care. They sent a notice. My credit would be hit. Collections could start. She'd found my weakness. I was already on thin ice financially after months of job switching and moving around. One hit to my score, and I'd lose the loan I was applying for on a new place. I needed that approval. That apartment was my chance at a clean start. And she was burning it down, deliberately. Then, just to twist the knife, she messaged me directly. A single sentence. "You're not as smart as you think you are." She wanted me angry. Reckless. She wanted to drag me down into her arena. And it worked. For a night. I nearly threw my phone through the window. I paced, shouted at no one, even thought about just walking away from it all. Let her win. Let her keep her little kingdom of lies. But then I remembered something. She was fighting like someone who knew she was cornered. She wasn't in control. She was just louder, dirtier, meaner. But I wasn't done yet. Not even close. She thought she had ended the game. But I had just changed the board. I didn't sleep much after she tried to wreck my credit. But I didn't need rest. I needed results. The first step was damage control. I met with the property manager in person, documents in hand, receipts, screenshots, timestamped messages proving I moved out, that she stayed, that every unpaid bill came after I left. He wasn't thrilled, but he was fair. Promised to freeze the report and recheck the facts. That was step 1. Step 2 was more surgical. I knew she had skeletons, but I wanted the bones with names, dates, and fingerprints. And I remembered something she never thought I'd remember, her personal laptop. Not the work one. The MacBook she used for everything outside the office. When we were still together, she used to back it up on our shared cloud. She assumed I disconnected everything when I moved out. I hadn't. I just muted the notifications. So I logged in. And what I found? Devastating. There were saved chats with 3 men from work. One married, one recently promoted, one who reported to her. There were intimate pictures, voice notes, calendar entries marking nights with each of them. But the worst was the folder labeled fun stuff. Inside? Recordings. Her. Laughing with one of them. Mocking HR policies. Saying things like, "If he reports me, I'll just say he tried it first." They always believe the woman. Another one showed her bragging about knowing what to say during sensitivity training so she could keep flirting without consequence. These weren't just damning. They were lethal. So I packaged them. Not all at once. Piece by piece. Just enough to make them traceable, verifiable, and dangerous. I sent the first audio file anonymously to the head of HR compliance at corporate. 2 days later, the office was in chaos. I heard it through the grapevine before I saw it. She had been placed on leave, pending investigation. Someone else was temporarily overseeing her team. Her nameplate was taken off the internal directory. Her calendar wiped. And then came the fallout. The married guy? His wife filed for divorce. The one who reported to her filed a complaint, backed by the recording. The promoted guy? Pulled from his position pending a review of how he got it. She was radioactive. The same system she had climbed, flirted with, and manipulated was now crushing her. She tried to do damage control. Posted a story with some inspirational nonsense about resilience in hard times. But no one was buying it. People whispered, avoided her. Some even unfollowed her on socials, including mutuals. And I watched it all from my desk. 3 floors below. The day she came in to clear her desk, I was in the lobby. Just happened to be there when she walked past, eyes behind sunglasses, lips pressed tight. She didn't see me, but I whispered, just loud enough for her to catch it. Guess the trash took itself out. She flinched, and for the first time in months, I smiled without guilt. I should have known it wasn't over. She lost her job, her reputation, her little office kingdom. But people like her don't disappear. They adapt. They scheme. And she had one card left. Me. A week after her suspension, I got served. An official letter. Legal letterhead. Defamation, it said. Malicious digital interference. Unlawful access to private data. She was suing me. She claimed I hacked her laptop. That I tampered with internal documents. That I had orchestrated a campaign to destroy her professional standing out of personal bitterness following a breakup. She even included statements from 2 coworkers who claimed I'd shown concerning behavior around the office. I couldn't believe it. She had flipped everything. Now I was the predator, the obsessed ex, the threat. And the worst part? It worked. My contract was reviewed, then revoked. I was out. No severance, no reference, nothing. Just gone. They didn't want a scandal. They didn't want the risk. HR called it prudent distancing. I called it cowardice. I sat in my apartment, quiet, empty, and dead broke. My credit had barely recovered. Now I had legal fees, no income, and a reputation starting to rot from the inside out. I checked LinkedIn. My inbox was dry. My connections? Cold. She wasn't just playing defense. She'd launched her own campaign. And she was winning. The final blow came from the landlord. Remember the leasing situation? Turns out she had filed a complaint for unauthorized removal of shared property from our old place. Said I took her things when I moved out. Lying, obviously. But the building opened an investigation anyway and froze my deposit. Then she filed a restraining order. Said she felt unsafe. That I'd followed her, stalked her online, created a hostile environment. And because she had already framed me as unstable in her lawsuit, the court took her seriously. I couldn't go near her building. Couldn't post anything even vaguely about her. Couldn't mention her name without risking contempt. She'd buried me with paperwork. All I had left were screenshots, backups, and my own rage. But rage doesn't pay bills. Rage doesn't prove innocence. Rage just burns. She won. Again. And it hurt more this time because I thought I'd beaten her. I thought I was smarter. More prepared. But I left one weakness open. I thought she wanted her job. I didn't realize she wanted me destroyed. And now? She was halfway there. She thought I was done. Thought she'd buried me under legal threats and restraining orders, frozen accounts, and whispered rumors. She forgot one thing. I'm the one who knew everything. The lawsuit made me cautious, sure. I kept my head down. No social media. No direct contact. But in the background, I was working. Quietly. Carefully. And I started with her weakest point. Money. She'd lost her job. No steady income. Still had the same expensive lifestyle. Same rent. Same wardrobe. Same phone she never downgraded. So I went back to something she forgot existed, her old Venmo history. It was public once, years ago. She never said it private. Guess what I found? Payments. Notes. Names. One of them? A client from her former company. A man I remembered only because she used to complain he was handsy. I tracked his name. Found photos. Private dinner outings. A charge marked, fun times, don't tell corporate, winky face. I took screenshots. Then I found 3 more. Men she'd claimed were just clients. all of them now linked in a tidy little timeline of suspicious transactions and suspicious relationships connected to her time as an HR lead in a company with strict ethics policies. And here's the thing. When she filed that lawsuit against me, she made her behavior a legal matter, opened herself to scrutiny. So I filed a countersuit. My lawyer, yes, I finally hired one, presented it not as revenge, but as defense. He laid out the evidence, the Venmo links, the recorded statements, the contradictions in her filings. We didn't need to prove she was corrupt, just raised doubt. Enough to make her look like a manipulative opportunist abusing the legal system. And it worked. A judge reviewed both filings and ruled there were grounds for mutual litigation but insufficient proof of immediate danger. Translation? Restraining order lifted. She lost her protection. And it got worse. The moment that order vanished, so did the wall between me and her past. I filed a formal complaint with the State HR Association. Attached documents. Photos. Statements. I submitted an anonymous ethics review to the compliance board of her old company. Yes, they do investigate former employees when reputational damage is involved. She was under new fire now. And not just from me. 3 days later, her name appeared on a private subreddit, Corporate Gossip Circles. Then a thread popped up on Glassdoor, calling her a walking conflict of interest. Screenshots followed. I didn't post any of it. I didn't need to. People talk when they smell blood. And she? She started drowning. I heard from a mutual friend that she was considering moving, that she was applying to companies in other states. Her LinkedIn was suddenly wiped clean. No job, no open references, no updates. Her world, once perfect and pristine, was now radioactive. And I hadn't even used the final card yet, because while she fought in court and scrambled to survive, I found something I wasn't even looking for. And when I opened that file, when I saw what she had really done, it changed everything. I thought I had her cornered. The lawsuits were collapsing, her reputation was burned, and the ethics complaints were gaining momentum. But somehow she wriggled free. Again, she hired a new attorney. Ruthless. Expensive. The kind of lawyer who doesn't ask if the client's lying, just how much they can get away with. They hit back hard. Claimed I doctored evidence. Claimed I was unstable, obsessive, vindictive. They even dragged up my teenage record, a shoplifting charge from when I was 17, sealed but still accessible under special petition. They painted me like a man spiraling, a threat to her well-being. And you know what? People believed it. The HR board closed their inquiry due to insufficient direct testimony. The corporate ethics board marked the complaint unverifiable. And the civil court threw out both suits. The final ruling? No legal liability. No restraining orders. No penalties. She walked. Again, I stood in the courtroom, numb, while her lawyer gave a smug nod and she turned without looking at me. She walked out of that building with her hair tied back, heels clicking, like nothing had touched her. Like she'd won. And she had. Until I got the envelope. It arrived the next week. No return address. Just a thick white packet in my mailbox with a yellow tab sticking out of the side. Inside? Printouts. Screenshots. Scans. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. Then I saw it. A spreadsheet. Names. Dates. Amounts. Bank statements. A burner account in her name. Linked to a side business she never declared. Cash payments. Anonymous transfers. Multiple deposits from clients of her former firm, including 3 who'd been involved in lawsuits during her tenure. There was more. A scanned non-disclosure agreement with her signature on it, one I'd never seen. Dated 6 months before she was suspended. It confirmed that she had received private settlement money from a male employee in exchange for dropping an internal misconduct claim. Meaning, she'd been extorting people. It wasn't just infidelity. It wasn't just manipulation. It was financial fraud. The kind of thing that could trigger a criminal investigation. I sat there for hours, staring at the papers, trying to breathe. My hands shook, not out of fear, but disbelief. She had lied to everyone. Not just me. Not just HR. But the system. And now? I had the truth. There was only one question left. What was I going to do with it? I stared at that envelope for 3 days. Didn't touch it. Didn't speak to anyone. Didn't eat right. It sat on my kitchen table like a weapon. And in a way, that's what it was. Evidence that could bury her career, trigger criminal charges, and publicly humiliate her beyond repair. I knew what to do with it. I'd already spoken with a contact, someone I met during my short contract at her company. She now worked in regulatory compliance for the state. I didn't even have to explain everything. Just sent a few redacted pages, told her I had more. She replied the next morning. If this is real, she's in serious trouble. That was all I needed. But before I sent the full file, I hesitated. Why? Because somewhere in all this, she must have realized what I had. It happened one evening. Doorbell rang. I opened the door, and there she was. No makeup, no suit, just sweatpants, eyes swollen, voice shaking. I know you found it, she said. She didn't ask how. She didn't pretend. She just dropped to her knees. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she whispered. Please. I stood there, silent. I messed up. I lied. I used people. I hurt you, she continued. But if you give this to them, they'll take everything. I'll lose my license, my freedom, my name. My family will disown me. She looked up at me with eyes I didn't recognize. Not the ones that mocked me on the couch. Not the ones that smirked in the courtroom. These were broken. Real. Then she said something I didn't expect. I deserve to lose everything. But please not like this. She reached into her bag, pulled out her phone, unlocked it, and handed it to me. Look, no backup drives. No secret files. Nothing. I deleted it all. I'm done. I should have felt victorious. I didn't. I felt tired. Worn. Hollow. This wasn't the girl I loved. This wasn't the woman who destroyed me. This was someone who had already lost more than she'd admit, and now sat crying in the hallway of the man she tried to ruin. She didn't ask me to love her again. She didn't ask for a second chance. Just mercy. So I stood there, envelope in one hand, her life in the other. And I said the only thing I could. What would you do in my place?